To one and all present, and welcome to a brand new episode of VUTV by Vijay Bhumi, a platform that we have created especially for the youth, where we connect youth, parents, and educators and talk about all contemporary topics and topics related to the youth. Well, today is a very special conversation that we have lined up on Express with Ease. Like we know, Express with Ease is a series where we invite students to share their perspective about various issues that are ongoing that can be global or national in nature. Today, rather, we are going to change the flavor a little bit of this series. And we have decided that in light of, the series of conversations that we're having in mainstream media, especially if I talk about the kind of movies that have been released recently, be it Sher Shah, which released on Amazon Prime, which was based on the life of Captain Vikram Batra, or the recent release of Akshay Kumar starrer Bell Bottom. A lot of conversation and chatter has been going on about joining the armed forces, joining the intelligence, etc. There have been conversations about nationalism, national pride, and a lot of related topics. So, as a team, we were thinking to ourselves that why don't we reach out to some of the young officers of the armed forces and understand from them through their life journey what motivated them to take on this arduous and tough path that we civilians see it to be. So I'm very delighted and I'm very honored to present our speaker for today. We have Major Abhinav Shandalia who's joining us. He's a major in the Indian Army. Thank you so much, Abhinav, for taking out the time and joining us. We really
Thank
appreciate
you.
the fact that you took it out for us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I'm so happy to hear that. And I'm sure all my viewers today are very, very excited for this conversation. We have been running various posts on our social media to try to get as many insights and questions from the public as possible, which I've tried to include in my conversation today with you. So without further ado, I think rather than me talking, everybody wants to hear you. So let's jump straight right into the conversation. Abhinav, what motivated you to join the armed forces?
Like critical motivation for me was not what I can say is I'm a first generation officer for my family. Even in my distant relative, there's no one who has got a defense background or who is an ex-serviceman or someone. So there was no any direct motivation, I would say, from my immediate family member or someone. But I do remember a like incident when I was like 8 or 9 years of age. And in 1999, if you remember, we have got that Kargil incursion in peace.
Kargil War,
And
yes.
there was very vast media coverage. I think that was the only war in which we have that much amount of media coverage.
Correct.
And like I remember, we used to watch television every day. And at that age, I do not remember like I understand anything, any iota about what are armed forces, what are all these things going on. So I remember like my father, he is very much fascinated towards the defense forces. So he used to tell me the stories like what is happening, who are the Kargil heroes, what's happening around you and all. So that was the first incident I would say which like churned my mind, said I can be a part of this prestigious profession. And the other factor was like we have a saying in army that we associate ourselves with, like you mentioned, Shesha movie. So like we associate ourselves with one of the movie, like in 97 border movie was released. So
Correct.
you always say like he's a border movie generation officer. And I remember like a Lux movie was released in 2004. There was a scene of IMA training was going on. So I just saw that I can be part of this organization. So we used to call ourselves that this is a Lux generation. Like many more movies that later came upon. So I'm sure many of the youths are like fascinated with these movies as well. And like there was one more thing which we used to follow religiously in our family, like every 15th of August or 26th of January, the whole family used to sit together. We used to watch all the Republic Day parades, the men in uniform, the discipline with which they walk. We used to like watch them eagerly, and I was very much fascinated towards them. So I had that thing in mind that one day, like I'll see myself at this place. So I remember an incident in my school, like there was a 26th January party parade was going on. I watched the parade. The very next day, we had a drawing competition in the school. So though I'm not a good artist, I don't draw good. I'm not a good caricature drawer. So I just drew a plane, and it was dropping a bomb on something. So like I said, my drawing was not that good. So my teacher asked me that, what have you drawn? So I just explained to her like, this is a plane. I want to be inside that plane and I want to do this thing. I was like in third or fourth standard. So initially she made fun of me that what have you drawn? This is not a drawing. But then she praised me. Like I was the only one in my class who thought in that direction and do something. Like many of my classmates do doctor, engineers, or all sort of other things like every civilian aspire. So I do that. So that those were the small instances like which motivated me towards this kind of profession. So that was the thing for me.
How wonderful is that? So I think, you know, if I were to capture the essence correctly, it would be this, that firstly, being born in a family where, you know, all of you took a lot of pride in nationalism and activities, definitely gave birth to that feeling of national pride.
Right.
Second, I think, you know, I'm so happy to hear, you know, you mentioned the role of teachers, how your teacher also encouraged you to think in that direction and did not dissuade you at that point, or you know, actually, you know, say something to you that this is not the right way of thinking. So that also sort of gave the fuel to your dreams. And obviously we cannot deny the kind of role that mainstream media has had in, you know, these choices that we make in life. You're absolutely right. I mean, Operation Vijay, which was the Kargil War, was actually the first televised war in the country.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's when us, the civilian population, actually got to see very closely that, you know, how difficult and, you know, what are the kind of challenges that, you know, the armed forces goes through when you get into a situation
And
like
like
war.
that was the time when actual civil population could connect themselves with the soldiers. I remember the things
Absolutely.
in the country like there were donation camps, blood donation camps for the our martyrs or like for our soldiers. So I remember the situation in the country. So that was the major impact for me particularly to get attracted
Correct.
towards the profession.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you that that definitely opened a lot of that channel of communication and exposed a lot of the larger population to life in the armed forces. Which brings me to my next question. As you mentioned, you're a first generation defense official in your family. How come you chose the army over other options? Did people actually dissuade you from making this choice? Because as we know, a career in the Indian Army is a difficult lifestyle choice. I mean, there are requirements where you need to stay away from your family when you're field postings, etc. So were there any people who actually came and told you to rethink about what you were thinking to do with your life?
Firstly, I would like to mention I'm an engineering graduate. I'm a mechanical engineer. So I did my engineering and then I got myself placed with a German MNC with a handsome package. Like I was already placed. I worked there for like 3 months, and thereafter I got myself selected. Like I got my merit list out, and then I got inducted into army for my training in IMA. So for me, it goes like for my particular entry, you go for your SSB interview, then you wait for your result, and for particularly my entry, the waiting period was way long. Like we waited for like a year or so for a final merit list to be out. So I wasn't very sure that in this attempt whether I'll be able to get inducted or not. So I took up my job. So like when I got selected, I left the job and I came over here. So I would like to at this like at this place I would like to clear one thing which many youth people, youth young minds have that in mind. They take army as a job. Like they think that you have got a very good job. So, but I would like to clear one thing, that it's not like a 9 to 5 job wherein you go, you do your work, you come home, and then it's your life. It's not work like that way. You have got a responsibility which you can only fulfill, which you have a passion for that responsibility. Like if you have something in you, then only something can be built upon. Like you can inculcate those character in you. So if you take this as a job, then definitely you may not be selected for sure. And if at all you are selected, you will not succeed in it if you have that kind of thought process. First is that, and thereafter, like uh, luckily, there was no one in my life to dissociate me from taking up this job. And I would also like to mention that your parents have got a crucial role to play in this. Like for us, we are like three brothers, and my father, he always gave us a free hand to choose whichever career option we would like to have. And even after when I got myself placed with the MNC, he never asked me that why would you want to join such a defense force in which you have such a life threat at risk. And like we all know, we might discuss maybe later, that the pays and perk, if you compare it vis-a-vis like with the corporate sector, are not that much, though we earn good enough to comfort a family. But if you compare it with the corporate sector, you have got exponential jumps, which is not present over here. So why would you like to go? So I shared my dream. I thought that I feel myself connected over there. So he supported me in that decision. So I feel parents have a great role to play on over here. They should always support their ward for whichever profession they would like to take. So for me, there was no one to pull me down or to bog me down from this one. So I was lucky that way.
Wonderful. And I think, Abhinav, what you said is absolutely right. And this is something that we always encourage the parents who join us in these conversations, that it's important for us to encourage every dream and aspiration of our children and let them, take that particular course that they want to. And the second thing, I think you're very right in saying that you need to be passionate about, whatever you do. Obviously, you're right, in the armed forces, it's not a 9 to 5 job. It's not a regular conventional way you can look at it as a job. So you need a different kind of a passion to sustain that lifestyle and to sustain the life choice that you have made. And I think that is really, I think for all the parents who are joining us in this conversation, I think this is a very important factor that Abhinav is highlighting here, that how you need to actually support your children. Like if this is the career choice that they need to make, I mean, you should actually support that career choice rather than, dissuade them and get them to do something where their heart and passion does not lie.
Kritika, I would just like to share one incident. A few days ago, I was like watching a video in Delhi CP. Some video journalist or someone was taking interview of some parents. They asked them. It was near 15th of August or maybe 26th of January last year. What happened? They were taking interview. They were asking parents that how do you feel about our defense forces? How are they doing? So they all said we are feeling proud. Like we are all happy. We support them. And the next question the journalist asked, whether would you like to send your son or daughter to serve this sub nation? So they were reluctant in answering. They
Yeah,
were
they were
very
hesitant.
comfortable. So like when you are supporting, then why are you not sending your children? Like
Children, correct. That's
that was the
hypocritical.
that's what the
I
thing.
totally, I totally agree with you. And I think, the fact, I mean, thank you for sharing this insight from your life that you actually, are an engineering graduate. You got an offer with a German MNC where I'm sure you must be earning a very handsome package. You experienced that and then you made this choice that, what, I still don't align myself there. And I think my heart lies elsewhere. So I think this is really important. I guess this is also a very important thing that, we should highlight, which is that we should encourage our children to make informed choices, like expose them to all
Yes,
opportunities. And
that's the
I've
thing.
already,
You can
yeah,
guide them, you can expose them with the options, but then let them choose it. I would say.
exactly, absolutely. And kudos to your parents for that they never interfered in your life choices, and they actually let you decide the twists and the turns that you wanted to take in your career choices. So that is really excellent. I mean, when we're talking about this topic, I think I can't shy away from asking this particular question. There's always this association with that if you want to join the armed forces, you need to have this great sense of nationalism and national pride. So I want to understand from you that, is it absolutely necessary for one to be a patriot to join the army, or this is something that is secondary? Because some of my conversations with some officers has also led me to believe that there's a lot of regiment camaraderie and other things like that. So it's not necessary that national pride and patriotism is the overarching theme. So what are your reflections on this?
Like firstly, it's a very interesting question, and like whatever I'm saying, it's my personal opinion, like what I feel.
Absolutely,
Like
absolutely.
for me, being patriot is a person who loves his country. They're ready to defend his nation at times of need, and somehow he is contributing for his country. So if I go by this definition, I would say every Indian is a patriot, barring few maybe, but every Indian is a patriot. So if you are a doctor, if you are an engineer, if you are a lawyer, you can be a patriot. Like we have recently seen in this COVID times, all those corona warriors, they are absolutely patriot. So for proving your patriotism, it's not necessary to join army or defense forces. Like it does not give you that stamp that if you are a patriot, only by joining defense forces you can prove it. That's not the thing. But definitely, if you seek your career, if you aspire to be an army officer, uh, patriotism is one of the character which is required, which is must, like along with the other qualities as well, for which you are tested thoroughly. Like there are certain criteria, certain characters for which you are tested, in your SSB days, in your training years, and thereafter you get your commission. If you are devoid of any of the character, you cannot pass through. You cannot be an officer. So patriot, being a patriot is one of the qualities required. So that is a must. But on the other hand, it's not the only way to prove your patriotism. That is, as per my opinion, what I feel.
I think that's a very interesting perspective you shared there, and I'm glad you brought it out to the table that patriotism is not the main character that one is looking for in when they're looking for an defense officer. What they're looking for is that it's one of the many qualities that one
Yes.
needs. And you're absolutely right that a corona warrior, COVID warrior, the doctors, the frontline workers, everybody, I mean, in our different professions and streams, we can always have national interests at heart and serving the nation at heart. So I think, I'm glad that you balanced it out there by saying that this is not something that you need excessively. Yes, it is a quality that is needed, but it's one of the many things that one needs to be able to serve the nation in the defense forces. Now, I have a lot of youngsters who will be joining me today, and I think they would like to know that how did you start preparing for these examinations? Like you mentioned, you were an engineering graduate. You basically got into your MNC, so I'm sure you must be preparing for the IMA examination. So how did that happen? How much time does it take? What are the kind of resources that one needs? If you can sort of unpack that for us.
Like I'll go about this in the way that whoever is aspiring to be an officer, they generally do their research work. They are aware what are the entry schemes, how they can enter. So the same way I did my research when I was in 12th standard. I got to know that there is something called NDA. You need to prepare for an ND examination, then you get yourself in ND and thereafter an IMA. But somehow at that time I could not fill the form. I skipped the last date or something. Something happened that I could not fill that form, but I always knew that after my engineering, after my fourth year, I'll get a chance again through different entry scheme to get myself into army. So that thought I always had. Even in my engineering days, I was keen that whenever I will get that opportunity, I will definitely try for that. Now coming on to special preparation for this kind is, like, frankly speaking, I did not go for any special preparation for getting myself into defense forces. Like a general awareness, general what is going on around you, general environment, GK, it's good enough. If you read your newspaper, if you're aware what's happening around you, I think it is good enough. And it also depend upon the kind of entry which you are going. For me, it was a technical entry. So definitely it was expected out of me that I'm aware of my technical stuff which I studied in my engineering. So you need to be good at what you are doing, because whenever you will go, definitely they will ask you about what you are currently doing. So that is a must thing. Then coming on to the aspect, especially for the younger minds, younger generation, what they are doing nowadays and what used to happen which happened with my postmates also, they go for many of the SSB coaching centers. They get their coaching from SSB. Like personally, what I would recommend, they are not, I do not recommend it, because what an SSB is looking inside you is your true character, and no coaching, nothing can hide it. Like people at the SSB, officers at SSB are good enough, trained enough to reveal your true nature. So wherever you will go, what they can at max do is they can expose you with the procedure, the framework, the format, that what is about to happen at the SSB. But that thing you can definitely see it on any YouTube video. You can buy a book and you'll come to know that wherever you are going for the SSB interview, what will happen, you will come to know. So I believe those SSB coaching centers are good enough for one time, if you wish to just to know the procedure. But I know the officers, I know the not the officers, I know the people who have attempted their SSB interview like 8 to 10 times by joining different SSB coaching centers. Their thought process may be that if I join a better coaching institute, I might get better are my chances for getting selected. But that's not how things work. Like if you might have heard that line, a tagline of Indian Army, do you have it in you? So that having thing inside you cannot be just grown up inside you when you go for a 10 days coaching or something. If it is in you, it will be revealed in your SSB and you will be selected. Though the selection rate is very less, frankly saying, like if you go like maybe there is no one selected out of a crowd of 500, maybe there are 3 to 4 selections out of 600. It is not a set parameter. Like you do not get vacancies like the other corporate sector that these many are the vacancies and these many we need to select. It does not work that way. If it is inside you, you will be selected. If it is not, you can try again. Maybe you could not reveal yourself, but you do not get stuck. That is what I would like to say. And regarding preparation, definitely, like I mentioned, it depends upon your entry. If you are going for a direct entry CDS examination, there are prescribed syllabus for clearing your written examination. You can prepare for it, you can clear it, but the main things come for your SSB. And what I personally what I felt during my SSB interviews, being honest is the key. Like whatever they'll ask you, whatever it will be there, you need to be honest with it, whether it goes with your negative character, whether it reveals your something which you don't want to, but you need to be honest, because they will catch you if you reveal something which you are not supposed to or something like that. So you need to be honest entirely. That is what I can say from my experience.
Wonderful. I think thank you so much for saying that, you don't have to, necessarily go for coaching, because you're right that sometimes people get so caught in this spiral of, which is the best coaching institute. And you think that once if I've enrolled myself in the coaching
It's a
institute, my
business
selection is
nowadays. The people
done.
do give the cutting in the in the newspaper that you come over here, we have got these many officers selected last year, but they do not realize those people were selected because they can get selected even if they don't do the coaching. But that is what
Yeah,
I believe.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, while we're talking about selections, I mean, obviously, I will have to talk to you about this. That what about the physical component? I think that scares a lot of people. And probably the reason why people think that even though they might feel that they are they want to join the army, they feel like they can't. But what is it like when it comes to preparing yourself physically? How was your journey? Did you do anything special, or how does it work?
Now this is a myth which I'd like to clear. Like before you join your army, there are minimum physical standard which are required. Definitely it is true, but you need not go through beyond your limits to to get yourself selected. In your selection days, they are looking for your character, not for your physical strength, because they are aware that when you will go for your rigorous training part, your physical strength will be built at any time, but they cannot change your character. Your mental strength, it cannot be changed. You are what you are and you will be throughout. So what they are looking for is your character. Like they will be testing for you for that. So I did that same mistake. Like there was no one to guide me in my family or someone, so I started running, I started doing physical stuff, and when I reached there at the SSB center, I realized that there is a minimum part for a physical standard, but maximum chunk was for your character. They were testing your character, that how you are. So you need not to worry about your physical things, but yes, definitely you need to be in your shape. If you are like from your physical appearance only, you do not belong to a particular organization, they might not select you because if you are beyond limits, but you need to be like a regular shape. That is good enough. And physically, you will be trained later on. It is their responsibility. They will get to you.
Right. And thank you so much for firstly debunking that myth. I think that is important that we had that conversation about that. Now, I do want to talk to you about, women entering the Indian Army. So, if you can share a little bit of pointers about what are the kind of opportunities that are open, what are the kind of paths that women officers are taking the Indian Army, so that we can encourage more people from the women folk.
You mean
Is
like
the
you want to
selection
talk about the
difficult?
different entry schemes, how we can get
Yeah, like the different entry schemes, like for example, what are the different roles that women officers can take up in the armed forces? If you have interacted with women officers, what is their journey been like? Because we'd like to try to make this also as an opportunity to talk about how there are a lot of opportunities opening up in the armed forces for women now,
yes.
and how they can see it as a lucrative career option as well.
Like I can speak, I can give you the insight, but if anyone is aspiring, they can at any time go for join indianarmy.nic.in. It's a website. Whenever there is any kind of entry option or there is any opening, it is updated with a notification in that website. So they can always scroll it. So if you go about it from your youngster days, if you are a 12th pass out, the first option you have, just a normal entry. Most of the officers come from that entry only. It's a you give your examination for NDA, you get yourself trained in National Defense Academy for 3 years, and thereafter 1 year in IMM, and that's how you become an officer. Like for me, it was a technical entry. You can do your engineering graduation, then you can directly get yourself into IMA for a year's training, and then you can like pass out. The other option you have is for the SS, like short service commission officers. That training is in OTA. You give your examination. There are exams for that, and there are other options: SSC Tech, SSC Normal. If you are technical, then there is SSC Tech. Then there is, if you are not non-technical, then there is another entry for that. And the women officers, as of now, they are getting trained in OTA only. And after getting commissioned into army, there are specific arms for the women officers for which they can opt for. As of now, not they are not in the combat arms because of the obvious conditions which we have to face. But gradually, I think, I'm not sure though, but maybe they will get a role in combat arms as well. But as of now, they are in the technical arms, like for the medical corps, for the engineers, for the EME, and other technical arms. They are there definitely.
All
And
right.
then there is a, if you there is a NCC entry as well. Like if you have got an NCC certificate, then you get an edge above others during your SSB. And there is a separate NCC entry as well. If you have got an NCC in your college or in your school, you have got higher chances. Like they'll see you through that eye.
Perfect. And since Abhinav, we spoke about this, that there are two entry points, like largely which are popular, which is one is going through the NDA Khadakwasla route, which is right after 12th standard, and the other is to finish your graduation and then go to IMA
Yes.
directly. Are there any benefits, pros and cons? Because I have a lot of people who will be joining me who are as young as 16 also. So is there any benefit of joining NDA and then going to IMA, or it's more beneficial to do your graduation and
Uh,
then go to IMA? What
yeah,
is your
like
experience?
for that, there is, it's not a like no one can answer it, because it's how you perceive it. For me, my first attempt was like I would wanted to go as a through NDA, but somehow I could not. So I went through my BTech. So after my BTech, so like there are no pros and cons as such. Like what I believe, what I can share you from my training days, when I got myself for in the academy in IMA, my postmates, they were already trained, and they were already at a par after 3 years of their training at NDA. They were at a certain level. For me, I had to start from scratch, and within that period of 1 year, I had to match with them. So that extra bit was not that easy. I had to put in something extra to meet with them. So if you are ready to do that, if you think if you have it in you, you can go with the after graduation scheme also. And if you believe that no, this is the only option, I want to do only this much, this one, then you can go with your NDA also. There is nothing like it has got a benefit and it does not. Once you are an officer after getting commissioned, it is same throughout. It does not matter. Like you will be at last you will be tested. That there will be same testing parameters for everyone, whether you are an ex NDA or you are a technical entry or a direct entry. It is same for all. So you need to pass all those tests, and then only you will become an officer. So
Correct.
it is like same for, there's no benefit or something like that.
Absolutely. So pretty much IMA is the leveling factor.
Yes.
Super. And let's talk a little bit about your training days at IMA. So, how difficult was the training at the Indian Military Academy? Is it as difficult and as torturous, if I may say, as they make it seem like in movies, especially in Laksh? So, because they did focus quite a bit on his journey at the Indian Military Academy. So, did you relate to that? How is it actually like in terms of the difficulty levels?
I can say difficulty is notional, that how you perceive it, how it is in your mind. Definitely for the initial months, for the initial days, we as a civilian, we used to feel that where we have come, whether we'll be able to sail through or not. But one thing which army teaches you from your basic training days, that you are never alone, you are never isolated. There are people with you who will motivate you, who will take you along. That's the thing which we inculcate from our very young age until even in the service. So that motivated me, that was with me, that I have got my postmates who were with me, who motivated me to be, sail through the training period. So like I mentioned, we have got the postmates who are ex NDA. They were definitely trained and at par as compared to us. So we need to put in that extra effort to match with their standards. Now coming on to the hardships and difficulty, I remember my first day in academy when I went over there for just testing our physical parameters. They asked us to do some physical exercise so that they can relate that where do we stand actually. So they asked us to make some 15-20 push-ups. They make that okay, you do it. And I remember I could do it like 8 or 9 push-ups, and then thereafter I gave up. So they were like my ustads and all instructor, they were started scolding that you cannot even do this much and all. That's the part, that's the life over there. So there were other cadets also who were at very who could do only 3 to 4. They were way less than me. So that incident which I remember like throughout my life, somehow my name got mismatched, and I was in that list who could do only 3 to 4 push-ups, and they could stamp me that this is a weaker cadet. We need to put in extra emphasis on this one. They made me stand in front of a doctor. He asked me that, son, you will be able to sail through only if you put in extra effort, and that is how I am giving you this. And what this was, it was whey protein. He gave me 4 kgs of whey protein. He asked me that you take it for 4 months, and then only you will get that much mass and muscle to pass out this training. So I was, for a few days I was thinking that I'm not that bad and I performed well, then why it is happening like. So somehow, like when I got myself for the first physical standard test and I cleared it in my first attempt. So it was like a huge surprise for me that they were considering me that I'm a weakling, but I did it. So that is how the first motivation for me in the academy. The second incident which I remember, like we are, for all our viewers, it is important to know that we are trained in every aspect when you are in academy. You are trained mentally, you are trained physically, you are trained by your instructors, your course mates, your seniors in every aspect. And then you have got various clubs over there for your own interest, for your own choosing. Whichever stream you like to choose, you can choose it. So I remember in one of my equestrian classes when we were doing horse riding, we were made to do lane jumping. In lane jumping, we need to make the horse, jump from a lane, and then you are above the horse, you are controlling it. So what happened with me when the horse was performing that lane jumping stunt, that neck strap of my horse came in my hand. So my horse was not in my control. Like I was disbalanced. My horse was like 5 to 6 feet above, and I was like 3 feet above the horse. So I fell down from that horse, and the horses are trained. He did not step on me, he stepped aside, but somehow I broke my shoulder. My shoulder got dislocated. So it is a very common thing over there. Like people do get injury, they get themselves healed, and then they come back for training. So I thought the same, that okay, I might have got dislocated and I'll be in shape in 2 days. So when I got myself into the hospital, the doctor, without even taking my X-ray, somehow he told that, son, don't panic. But I feel, and I'm talking about a time when it is just like 15 days left for my passing out. So I have completed my 1 year of almost training, and then there are just 15 days left. So in the hospital, the doctor asked me, he told me that, son, don't panic. You might not pass in this term, probably in next term, and maybe you will be kicked out of army because of this injury. So I was like shattered. I have done everything, and in just one day, I'm just like, where am I? So he told me that this is a serious injury, and somehow I don't know why he said so. Like this is a serious injury. I'm transferring you to a higher authority, a bigger hospital. So I went to the base hospital. I got myself admitted over there for like 5 to 6 days, and thereafter this specialist doctor over there, he took my X-ray. Then he took my second X-ray, and finally he took my third X-ray on third day, and he asked me in a very mimic tone that, son, what have you done? So I was like, sir, I just fell from my horse. So okay, what have you done to got yourself over here? You want to skip your training? That is how you are here. That is why you are. So he started scolding me. He told that nothing has happened to you. Why are you here? So that was a big sigh of relief. I was thinking, one hand, I'm happy that he's saying nothing has happened to you, and another
Correct.
way he's scolding me. So he shifted me to academy back, and I was so happy that nothing has happened to me that severely. The other doctor, which was he was mentioning. So that's how the training works over there. Like you have to be very cautious in your training time. You cannot get yourself injured way too seriously that you will be out of your training. So things are there. It is difficult for a person who is doing it for the first time, but you will sail through. Most of the people do. When you are inside academy, you will be taken care of, and you will sail through with the training part.
Wow. But I think what really stands out for me is the fact that, you spoke about camaraderie, that you're never alone. And I think
That's the
that,
thing.
yeah, I think that's great, right? I mean, when you
Like
realize that you're not the only one and everybody's struggling through you, I mean, you just kind of get past things a lot easier.
that is how the things work over. Like in any of us senior who used to make us do more hard training or PT training, they become your best pal and your mentor throughout your life. You are always connected with them, and you are so comfortable in sharing things with them. They will always guide you. That starts from the academy days.
Wow, I'm so happy to hear that you built such long-lasting relationships at the academy. That's really really nice to hear. And also, I think the fact I think it's so interesting to hear from. I mean, since I come from the higher education space, that you have apart from the training that you go through, there's enough space that is also given to all the gentlemen cadets to pursue the other interests that they have.
Yes, definitely.
So that's amazing. So like there is like this component of holistic development that is happening at the academy. So which is amazing. Now let's talk about a little bit about once you got commissioned as an officer. I mean, from having some people in the armed forces from my family, one especially gets to know that as a young officer you do have a lot of you have a combination of your field postings as well as peace state postings. So how does one manage their professional and personal life in these situations? How difficult is that? Because that is also probably a reason why people get a little nervous about joining the army. That how they'd manage their life once they get into these kind of postings. So how has your experience been?
Uh, for me, like just to inform, I've recently got married. So like I was like few months only. So when I was a bachelor,
Congratulations.
thank you so much. So when I was bachelor, the things were not that difficult for me. But because when you're bachelor, you are yourself and you do not feel that thing. But as I saw my seniors, how they used to manage or how things were. For me, what I would like to say is that for a soldier, his personal and professional lives go hand in hand. It's not that you cannot just make a stick a line that this is your personal and this is your professional life. It goes hand in hand. It's for an army, it's like a big family in which you do all the things together, including your family. You celebrate your all your festivals together. You share your happiness time, your sorrows with your seniors and juniors. It goes together. You cannot just delineate between that this is my professional front and this is your personal front, which is what I feel. And if at all you want a personal space, I think it's an art. Like you have to make balance it out. Like you yourself mentioned, for a regular soldier it's a field posting, then it's a peace posting. When you are in your field posting, you cannot take your family with you. When you are in your peace posting, you can keep the family with you. So families also have an equal and important part to play in it. If you are a women officer, your husband and your children. If you are a male officer, your wife and your children, they understand the foundation and restrictions which one individual has to face when he is part of this organization. So somehow they manage it. They have to, like, this is the one, like when we talk about pros and cons, this is one thing, uh, one front in which this I can say that you have to manage it, because you cannot be as comfortable as you are when you are in the corporate sector or any other government job, wherein you have got stability. Here, every few years you need to move from one place to another, so you have to manage like everybody does, and you have to. So knowing all these things, once you are aware of all these things, only one joins the defense forces, what I can say. And for the personal and professional part, what we say is like we work like maniac until our goal is achieved, and then when we party like there is no tomorrow, and the next day morning again we are ready to work. That is how things go in army. That is how the way are.
Wow.
That's what I believe.
That's really interesting, and I'm so glad that you did talk about how your family also plays a very important role in supporting your career choice. Because like you said, they need to understand that you're not always going to be with them, and it's a combination of your peace postings as well as your field postings. Wonderful. So now, since we did talk about mainstream media, I would like to ask you this question. So in films, a career in the armed forces sometimes is probably a notch higher glamorized than probably it is. How much do you think, how close are we to how, it's picturized in movies, all that glamour that's attached to the Indian army? How is it actually as an officer? Do you relate to it?
I can feel that. Why not? Like we have seen things, then we are experiencing those things. So I can relate that whatever I aspired for and I'm getting it in this life. So why not? Like I believe that whatever you see in movies, probably they are like, for the cinematography purpose, they do it some things which are may not be actual, but definitely you can meet your aspirations 80-90%. Why not? Like I believe that.
Yeah.
So
And do you feel like now when you probably come back to Udaipur and, you meet your friends from other professional streams, do you feel like you're missing out on something?
no, no, definitely. I do not like it was a voluntary choice in the Indian Army. It's a voluntary army. So, like, it is a dream of millions. And one day I used to dream that, and when I've got this, there is no point regretting it. Like, when we definitely, if we compare it with some other job, you see the monetary aspect. Definitely, we are maybe lesser, but not that less that we cannot, suffice with our family. It's good enough, but we are getting something which even money can't buy. Your dignity, the respect which you get in the society, it's not available in the other job, even if you are earning way
Correct.
too much. Like, and
Correct.
the kind of rewards which we get once we are into army, like young people should know that firstly it is the kind of satisfaction for which you are doing what you want to do, you are doing, that is the biggest satisfaction which we are getting. Secondly, the like if you talk about some pays and perks, you are getting your medical benefits, you are getting the canteen facilities, your family is covered up once you are in service. Once you are not, maybe because of some mishappening, your family is taken care of. These are the things, which no other organization is offering to you. Then your body language, your entire personality changes once, even if you are out of army, you can easily outshine yourself from the other civilians counterparts. Then if you are adventure enthusiast, if you are a sports, if you're interested in one of any of these sports, you name a sport, it is available in army. You can be part of any of the adventure expeditions. So if you are aspiring to look for all these things, definitely it's a must career option. Why not? Like, you're getting everything. I did not find anything like for which I should regret on.
And more importantly, I think what really also stands out for me is the fact that you said that, the Indian Army is like a large family. How everybody's in this together and how everybody's coming together to help each other. I think that's really heartening and very heartwarming to hear.
Yeah,
Because nowadays, especially, with a lot of young professionals in our age, one feels very isolated and alone. So the fact that, you feel that there's a great support system that one finds in other fellow officers in your regiment.
and
I
one thing, like I felt it from my friends, like what they always talk about, that I am getting bored of doing this stuff. Like, I don't want to do it. I've been doing it for years. In army, we have got the variety. You are not stuck to a particular job. When you are in field, you are performing different duty. When you are in peace, you are performing different duty.
Yeah.
When you are doing your courses, you are a student. So like, it's a, you have got variety of roles to play in your career option, so you never get bored. And that's one thing. Like, you can do whatever you want, you can do different stuff in a different way. That kind of luxury, I think, it's not available commonly to in other professions.
I think you've just hit the nail on its head with that response, because a lot of people would resonate that emotion that they're bored. They get bored of how mundane their professional life becomes after a point of time. So it's lovely to hear that in the Indian Army, it's every day is a new challenge, every day is a new
Yes.
obstacle, it's a new win, it's a new opportunity. I see we're running out of time, but I definitely had to take this one last question. So before we close this conversation today, Major Chandelier, I would like to know, what are your 5 reasons that you would give to the youth today that why they should pursue a career in the Indian Armed Forces?
Firstly, your own satisfaction and sense of pride for serving your motherland. Secondly, if you are an adventure enthusiast, if you're a sports enthusiast, definitely it's a must career option. Thirdly, it will be like your job security and economic stability, which you seek at some point in your time. Then post retirement benefits, like I believe defense forces and police services are the only one left in which you get some pension at the later stage in your life. So this is one benefit. And at last, physical fitness, like I believe we all go to gym, we pay to them for keeping ourselves fit. I think this is the only profession in which you are getting paid for keeping yourself fit. So what is better than that? So these can be like, major reasons for anyone to encourage and join the defense forces.
Wonderful. I think these are very compelling reasons for both, like, the you joining us, the men and the women joining us to, consider a career in the armed forces. Thank you so much, Major Chandelier. It was so lovely to be conversing with you. So many thought-provoking insights you've shared with us. And I really hope this conversation will encourage a lot of people from the youth to consider this as an option and find inspiration and take inspiration from your journey that you shared with us today. Thank you very much, and wishing you all the very best with your new posting.
Thank you, Kritika. Thank you so much. I'm more than I'll be more than content and satisfied with all I made impacted in anybody's thinking or anybody's life. That would be my pleasure. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. And we really, I think I speak on behalf of all my viewers who are joining me here today. We really respect the amount of effort and the sacrifices each of you have made to keep us safe and secure so that we can sleep peacefully at night. So thank you so much. Wishing you all the very best. And to all my viewers, we are going to see you again next week. So till then, mask up and stay safe, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Kritika. Take care. All the best.
Bye.